everybody.
Welcome to Life After Death and Beyond.
With James and Kellee.
James and Kellee White. Hello, everyone who's listening and watching. And tonight we have a very special, we're starting kind of a series, I guess you would say, Kellee.
Yes.
It's one of the most popular series out there right now. People are searching for it.
Yep.
Now, this is very interesting, Kellee. I didn't know the number one podcast subjects, did you know, are true crimes or crime stories.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, crime stories, celebrities talking about different crimes and make this whole series about certain crime stories. And that's number one on podcasts. Number two is spirituality, but a subject of spirituality, which is big, is what we're going to do tonight is near-death experiences.
Yes.
And we're going to do a series of near-death experiences. We have our first guest tonight to talk about her near-death experiences. Completely changed her, and everyone who reads this book changes. But then we have some other people coming on later on, Anita Bajani and many other people who've had similar near-death experiences. But of course, everyone that has one is different because everybody's unique, huh, Kellee?
Oh, yes. And I think that our guest has a really special story and a special message to share with everybody because she survived a near-death experience. So, yeah. James, how about if I read her bio for everybody?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so our guest, Ellen Wier, recently appeared in the documentary Beyond the Grave, which won the award for Best Paranormal Film of the Year in 2023 at Cannes, at the Cannes Film Festival.
Wow!
Right? I mean, this is amazing. And she shared her near-death experience in that film. Ellen is the author of a book about her near-death experience called Waking Up in Heaven, Living with Purpose Through Afterlife Wisdom. And during her experience, she woke from a coma to music. And now she dedicates her life to using sound vibration and music to help people connect with their higher presence. She's a spiritual coach, musical therapist, sound healing practitioner, and she has a master's in transpersonal psychology. So please welcome, everybody, Ellen Wier.
Hey, Ellen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ellen. We're so happy
You came in with a lot of talents.
Really, I think your story is really phenomenal.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I can't stop smiling.
And Kellee, you did not mention that, Ellen, the most important thing, her and I are neighbors. We live in the same neighborhood in California.
Yes. Well, you both live in the same neighborhood, and she and I both had head injuries. So there's,
so Ellen,
I mean,
take us back to the beginning.
Yes, please.
Yes. Oh, well, I used to love to ride horses as a child. And there was a day where the cinch slipped and the horse stumbled, and then I fell off the horse and it kicked me in the temple. And it was just, and then I went into a coma. I was in a coma at the hospital. They transferred me to another hospital in Texas in the Dallas area with a neurological team that told my parents, play things at my bedside, right? They said, try to stimulate the mind. So they were playing home movies. And then on this particular day, they were playing a cartoon, a Disney movie that was 95% music.
I have to know what song that was.
This is so weird. We're just talking about this today, Kellee.
And so this is what's great. My mom was so angry at my dad for choosing this one because of the irony. It was Sleeping Beauty. It was a Sleeping Beauty movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it
Makes sense.
It was my favorite movies, one of my favorite movies as a child. So he played that in the ICU next to my bed.
So brilliant of him.
I know. And what's magic about it is I didn't know any of that, but I was on the other side. I started on this raft that was in pink clouds, and I had Jesus in front of me, and then a man to my left who was thin and bald and younger and had long brown robes and bare feet.
Let me interrupt you, Ellen, for 1 second. So when you were hit in the head by the horse, you blacked out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you immediately, the first conscious memory you have is being on a raft. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I remember. So for me, that was where it kind of started for me. In fact, I don't even remember much that happened before my NDE. I don't have memory.
So did you lose memory before your life? So you were 12 when you had your injury.
Yeah. So I don't remember birthday parties or first days of school or
teaching. Yeah, James, that happens. Actually, that happened to me. I lost about 15 or 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was kind of starting over, and music was the catalyst for all of it because I was on this raft and then I was taken into golden light. I was taken into kind of this intermediate world of different colors and music, but then the part that I remember the most was the golden light, and I had no body, and it was all love, and I describe it as this warm blanket, this full full feeling around me, or my energy, because there was no body. And then I just became this light. I became the love. And that was the experience. It was less of a place and more of this feeling of being whole and connected. And there was no name for it. There was no judgment. There was no human concept at all, no consciousness in the way we think of it. And so I got to be that. And then I was taken back to the raft. And that's when I got to have the conversation. Do I want to come back? Or do I want to stay?
And who was it with the conversation? The light, or was it with this figure, or who was it with? Do you remember?
It was Jesus that was communicating through thoughts.
Okay.
And the man on my left, I found out who he was when I went to grad school, and I'll tell you about that in a minute because that was amazing.
Wow.
And so I had no human construct, right? It could have been either way. There was no right or wrong. Honestly, I could have chosen either one, and my soul wanted to stay. My soul wanted to stay in the light, and it felt whole. But then I was shown this trajectory of my father's path and my family's path, mostly my brothers, and that they wouldn't actualize their selves on this plan, right on this planet, even though it would have been okay. Right. So I chose to come back. And it was in that moment that I was flooded with gratitude and human feeling. Like I got to do this. I got to live. I got to come back. This was a gift. I knew all at once, this is a gift. And I got the messages that we're here for a reason. And most of what we think about doesn't matter. And that we're here every time. Every experience has purpose. We all have purpose. We all have meaning. And all of these messages flooded through. And I was so overwhelmed with gratitude that I made a vow. I wanted to heal people with music. And for a long time, I wouldn't tell people that. I wouldn't say that I was going to be healing people with music because it felt so egotistical, right? How can I heal people with music?
Had you been a musician prior to this?
Well, I had taken piano lessons. And my mom was kind of a piano teacher for a while. My aunt was, but no, not necessarily. I mean, of course, I love.
Why music, do you think?
Well, I think I was given my gift. I think I claimed it. I think I knew in my soul body that was my channel. Right?
It was activated, kind of, huh? In your mind. Yeah, interesting.
And that was the gift, because the moment I chose that, I felt just this experience of swelling of gratitude, like oh. And I get to do that. And this is the cool part. Everything went dark right after that. And I found myself in this kind of womb-like energy. And there was nothing but a staff of music in the distance. And each note had a different color, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So it was, animated, kind of like, oh, I'm watching this. And it went from being tiny to getting bigger and bigger and going through my head. And I couldn't hear anything until it went through my head. And then there was this, like, I point down kind of to the right, this tiny pinprick of light, but it was actually sound. And it was almost inaudible. I could barely hear it. And so I focused everything that I had on that sound until I could pull it into my consciousness. I think I was bringing myself into my body. And it got so loud that it was booming, and it was almost painfully loud. And I forced my eyes open, and I was in the ICU, and the credits of the movie with the music were playing at my bedside.
Oh,
so then I slipped back out of consciousness. And then the full circle moment was when I went to a Buddhist university called Naropa when I went into transpersonal counseling, and I saw a depiction of Buddha. And he was a thin Buddha with long brown robes and no shoes. And that was the man on my left.
Oh.
And so I came to this realization, and I learned through the practices at Naropa with contemplative practices and meditation and altered states of consciousness work. That was my how. My why was the NDE, and I woke up from a coma to music, and then I threw myself into playing the flute and performing. Undergrad performance. Then I go to Naropa, and I go through this experience called the Bonnie method of guided imagery and music. And that was the closest I had ever been to heaven in my human body, because I left my body and went into the music. And now that's what I do for people. Oh, I see people I know. Hi. So that's what I do. I use the music to help people connect to their higher self so they can experience heaven on earth through the music, through the sound. And they're not getting the messages from me, though I do share messages. They're getting it directly from their own presence. And how beautiful, right? They get to get this experience of love. And that's my work. And that's my story.
Unbelievable.
I love that you said too, you made a point in an interview that I listened to. You said that everything you do has got to resonate with that feeling, which I really appreciated, because that's you're living your real truth.
It is. And there are so many people that think of it in a backwards, they think of it like as a life review. Like when I get to the end of my life and I look at my life, what are the things that I'm doing that are going to make me connect and know that I lived in that light? And for me, it's an NDE review where I go back to that feeling in the light. Right. Does this have the same energy? And the bowls have that same energy. The Bonnie method has that energy. Music has that energy. The plant medicine has that energy. Like oils and different types of plant medicine have that energy for me. And that's how I live my life. Does this fit?
Let me interrupt you, Ellen, by you saying that, because it's just coming to my head and things pop out quickly. And that's the way of life in plant medicine and music. And how much important is the thought behind the intention, do you think? Of like music therapy and it, don't you think it adds a little extra with a thought behind it? Or
oh yeah, intention is everything, right? Like it's just absolutely, we talk about when we speak to water and the crystals change and then it can be frozen and we can see images in water, you know. And we hold that element of consciousness in our language and in our thoughts. So the discernment of thoughts, like that's it, right? Like let's stay on, this is how we can have a practice of staying in positivity and then ascending through these higher life experiences. Yes, things are going to happen. How do we frame it and stay in the consciousness of positivity and light as we go through this human experience that we're all here to be in, right?
Yes. 100%.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I speak, you speak, Kellee speaks, we all speak the same language. It's interesting. A quick one I have too, I'll remember, is when you came back in, you said you played the flute and you started playing music. Did your ability, was this fast? Was it a rapid ability now of learning music and playing music quickly more than it would have? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It was, I mean, I didn't understand half the things people were saying, first of all. I mean, I didn't, like, my mom would tell me, she had the best advice, just fake it till you make it, smile and pretend, you know, because I realized that I didn't understand the story. The story didn't matter to me. What mattered was an energetic connection. And if I learned anything on the other side, it's that we do create our reality and that we get lost in the story. And so I would just connect energetically to people because I didn't often remember their names. I didn't know what they were talking about. It was confusing. And in the music, though, I could be the music. And I just immersed myself in music all the time. And it was a skill that came very quickly and very fast. And I was very successful with it. And it was my way of healing. And now I've found out music can actually regenerate neurons, right? We can connect different sides of the brain through playing music. We can, what is the phrase? Like, music allows us what conscious thinking cannot. It gives us the direct connection to that emotion.
Wow. 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 And so you talked about also about controlling your thoughts, literally controlling your thoughts. So if you're going down a negative road,
how do you
switch it up?
So that came through my training at Naropa, all this Buddhist philosophy of how when we have a negative thought, I just see it lifting out of my head. Like at first it was a butterfly. See it like a butterfly. If I'm driving, because I get stressed out when I'm driving, sometimes I just roll down the window, send it out the window. I've seen it consumed by a violet flame, you know, like this is the, you know, violet flame or moving over the mountains or into the ocean, right? And then just allowing it to leave and replacing it with a positive thought has been a big practice. And I learned that through meditation.
Yes, that is so true.
Yeah.
That's so accurate. I loved also that you talked about constantly in a state of reawakening.
Oh yeah, talk about that.
Can you talk about that?
Great.
Oh my goodness. I feel like every opportunity in our life is an opportunity to reconnect with our source presence, right? So we come to this experience, it good, bad, in between, everything is all a message, a reconnection. So every experience in my life, I see the signs. I'm actively looking. I believe everything is a sign. Everything can be seen. And then when you start seeing everything as a sign, the world becomes magic. Like
It's
pure
true.
magic. And you realize that I could never make this up. Like this person's name, this synchronicity, this flower, this dream, this whatever, like this is happening through me, right? Like that's what they say. They say there are different stages of knowing, like this is happening to me, this is happening for me, this is happening through me. And then I got a download recently, it's of me. I have
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
in me. It is of me. I talk about that in my book. It is of our source experience, our divine presence within us that guides everything. And the more we can use everything in our environment, world, life to come more fully into that, that's the reawakening that we can always be cycling through.
Wow.
Yeah.
I have just a basic question for you, because I don't get to speak to many people. We don't get to speak to many people like this. So
No.
I want to ask you something. Do you find each day, not how to put this to you, that you have more gratitude each day, or when you look around, and you and we live in a lovely place in San Diego, and it's beautiful with the beach, and we have nature here. Let's just say, looking at trees, do you find you have more gratitude each day, or does the nature come back to you and show you colors, and that you keep on growing with that self-awareness? Just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Well, we are humans, like we are human. And so gratitude to me is a practice. It's something that was another vow that I made before I came back, was that I will give thanks every day for every experience that happens, because I know everything has purpose. And that was a big part of my experience. So it's a practice. Every night before I go to bed, I think of what I can be grateful for. And I like some of the practices, like what Jack Canfield says, where you stretch yourself every day. What is something new each day that I can be thankful for the most? And so then you're not saying the same things all the time. You're expanding your awareness of gratitude. I believe, in my experience, that gratitude is that closest feeling that helps me to access that place where I went. That is because if you really are in gratitude and you're not thinking about it, but you're in it, your heart just opens. And there's this expansive feeling within the consciousness of the heart. And it's just a way of being, right?
How would you describe the other side?
Oh, it was full. There was a fullness to it. There was a connection. Everything was known, but everything didn't need to be known. If that makes sense. Well, I remember when I came back, I said, oh, I don't need to know the answer to that. And that was one way I could release thoughts, even as a child. I'd be like, well, I'm wondering or worried about this grade or this friend or this relationship. And like, I can figure that out when I'm gone. When I'm on the other side, it doesn't matter, because it is like, it feels like, in a way, our thoughts are our greatest gift. And they also can be a distraction from the present of what is, living in that energy.
Ram Dass talks about the mind being our karma.
Yes. Ram Dass was a big influence at Naropa.
Mine too. Oh, I love Ram Dass. I used to workshops with Ram Dass. I loved him. Great man. Great being. Great being.
Yes.
It's so true.
What would be a message that you would offer for everybody right now during this period of life that we're going through?
And it's a rough time right now in this world. What do you say to people having a rough time, and just generally speaking?
Well, I say to please remember that everything has purpose and meaning, and that we can co-create with Source. And the more that we really open ourselves to receive that energy, to get out of the thinking mind, to allow gratitude, and to live in a higher consciousness, the more experiences we can call in at the frequency in which we want to live, basically. So whether it's through listening to music or dancing or community or spiritual practices like meditation, Or even for me, it's just the practice of releasing negative thoughts and replacing them. Anything
Or laughing, sweetheart. Even laughing
Oh my
raises the vibration, right?
so good.
Right? It's a good one. I like that one.
It transmutes everything, right? That joy, anything, everything. The more we can live in that joy and we can start to live in gratitude, the more we can create more to be grateful for. And it's really true. And I think there are other ways that we can learn to listen more purposefully to our presence, because each person is their own greatest guru. And to seek outside of yourself for the answers it can be very misleading and confusing. But if you can find a practice that takes you in direct communication with your higher self, and you allow that higher self to live through every experience, to breathe through you, to taste and smell, to do art, to listen, and that presence is actually experiencing life through your human, that's the greatest message I think I would send. That's it.
What would a session look like with you?
Yeah, let's say it's a music session, right? Kellee, would be like would you start with a music therapy session, or what? When someone comes to you for a session, what is it that you work with?
Well, a private session is amazing. So we start with intentions. Intentions are the most important part. And I'm working a lot with the water element right now with intention, and moving light through the body through the water element within us. So we start with intention. I use an essential oil to pair.
Well, before you begin, Ellen, excuse me for interrupting you, but the people come to you for therapy, or for marriage problems, or for psychic readings, or what do they come to you for?
They come to connect with their higher presence. They come to enhance their intuitive abilities. They come to deal with grief, sometimes when they need to make a choice in life. It's mostly spiritual coaching, but I work with a lot of people who come and they want to understand their pain and have more connection with their body.
And letting go of that pain, I assume, too, right? Releasing. A lot of releasing.
Yeah,
or they probably release stuff they didn't know they had inside them once you start working on them, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
But they want to come and have an experience of the light. They want to feel that energy, that euphoric, and have messages from their guides or from a loved one past that they can get directly. And that does happen.
Or their higher self.
Or they come to see a past life so that they can clear past life. That's another thing, very present right now. And for me, the way it works for me, because I channel through the music. So we do intention, we do oils to partner to make an association, a psychological association with the positive intention and the brain, right? So we do that. We bring in like the sensory experience. Then we go into an induction of light. Now, this is when I bring in messages. So I'll see a light ray coming down, and it will take different forms and different colors. It moves into the tissues of the brain. It removes like energy. It clears and transmutes the body from above, right? And then their energy tends to like go into the earth, to ground into the earth. The earth tends to open, spread that light across the globe for healing. And then we move into the process of the imagery. So first there's a clearing with sound, color, light, and then this download of light that I see, and they usually see for themselves. Then we start a music program. It's a classical music program. This is online or in person. The music program allows them to tap into the unconscious mind. So then they'll start to travel. They'll see different scenes. It's kind of like a play. Scene one, they'll be in a place where they need to receive some information. When they receive the information, the feeling they're supposed to receive, they go to another place and they usually ascend in their experience. Like, well, they'll start at a field and then they'll receive the peaceful, calm feeling. Then the next will be like, they'll get wings and fly up into the light. They'll feel and get an experience in that realm. Then they'll move up and they might meet with an ascended master or a guide or a loved one past. They might then this is the point where source works through them, right? I'm holding space. I'm taking notes of everything that I'm seeing and everything they're seeing, because they're in an altered state. And this is the cool part. So then if their intention is to heal ancestral trauma, they might be holding that in the body. So they might feel something in the body. So we go back into the body. We ask the body what it needs. We channel it from that place of higher presence into the body. Like, this is what you need. This is what you need. Give it love, give it light, or give it confusion, or give it all your fear. we're funneling in what it asks for so that we can go to the next level of understanding in the body. Usually when the person is funneling light into their body, I know they've reached the final level in the body, and then they're taken back up again. They start seeing visions. They start getting messages. They see a loved one pass with a message for them. Sometimes their entire ancestral line will circle around them and give them a gift. Like, that's a session. And then at the end of the session, I do a reading with them. I tell them what came through for me. It's actually a 2-hour process.
I said, that's a session? My God.
Oh my God. This is a big session. I do smaller ones too, but then
I'll do a large one. Thanks.
It is. I mean, oh my God. I've had people who have not understood like what's happening in my life now in my relationship. They go into a past life. One of my clients found out she had been choked in a past life and she wasn't able to use her voice in this life. So I combine the psychological tool of parts work with past life regression. We clear the past life. We come back and I said, okay, now that part of you has integrated in your personality. She's been keeping her, as she said, it was keeping her from freedom. Okay, let's use your voice. Let's imagine how you can give her another role in your life so that she's helping you be more free. So it switches the role. If you're familiar with that, the psychological work of parts work, internal family systems, and you'll know this is. And we do workshops once or twice a month in the backyard by the pool with breath work, bowls.
Oh, I'll be there.
Oh my gosh, that would be.
I'd love to.
We just had one last week where someone from Ireland was visiting for a week and she just showed up. We did this and people just oh my God, it was magic. And then we had 5 practitioners. And then the next day we kind of met impromptu and people just started showing up at the house, ringing the doorbell because they heard we were all doing this again. So it's, anyway.
This is what Encinitas is like, Kellee.
Oh, I've been there.
You know.
But it is fascinating because she is near you. You should definitely have an experience.
Please.
I mean, it would be extraordinary,
We'll get
James.
together. I have a question for you, Ellen. Also, like when you meet somebody, and forgive me for my ignorance here, but when you meet somebody, you're obviously extremely intuitive with that. And especially when you meet them, you're open. And do you become aware right away? Do you become aware of a sound or music that's vibrating just for them or colors? Or do you pay attention to what they're wearing or their auric field? Tell me about tell us a little about that.
Oh, a lot's been coming through lately. I've been seeing a lot of geometric patterns around people. Sacred geometry has been really big right now. Colors come through to me. The colors have specific meaning to me, so I usually know what it means. Sometimes a loved one pass will come through prior to a session, especially, and then it'll be a profound moment for me. And that's always a way to help them connect more with their presence, right? So whatever it is for them. And then before a client comes through and in the moment, usually in the session, I'll get a download about which music program I need to use, whether it's past life, or there's recollections, there's grief, there's transitions, there's peak experience, which I highly recommend, the classical music in that one. And I'll be told in that moment. And then the light. So I get to see where the light goes in the person. And then I know, like today, my client came in and it was the first time I've ever seen this. The light came through, it connected to her heart to take her out of the head and into the heart and to know the knowledge within the heart. And it connected her heart with her throat and her third eye in this geometric pattern that connected the 3, which highly related to her intention, right? And then I saw a vision of her future where she was a healer and she was healing others and teaching others. And her intention was like to find her purpose. But I don't share that in the moment. I see that, I take notes, and then she received her vision on her own. And a lot of like animal totems come through. So yeah, it comes through whatever way works for the client, basically. But in the sessions in the backyard, I mean, that is like the last channel.
And that group dynamic too, which really brings up in that space. I mean, my goodness.
Oh, the coolest thing happens in groups. It's like each person's guides are communicating with my guides. So basically, I'm just leading the imagery. I'm like, oh, now we're taken to a book. I don't know why. And then one time, I mean, this happens all the time, right? One time I was told to focus on the liver. There was so much clearing of the liver. And
Wow.
afterwards, I said, that's never happened before. And this woman started crying. She had come from out of town. She was the recipient of a donor for a liver.
Oh,
And she had come to clear, she didn't say this at the beginning, she had come to clear the energy of the donor. And
Wow.
like, I know. And then, but it's really about the experience of the workshop participants, because they'll have like collective consciousness is fabulous.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll see,
Yeah.
like 3 people will see a poppy field, or like 3 people will see a little white, 2 people once saw a little white dog with a red bow on its neck. And then they were like, I don't know why it was there. And the guy across the circle pulled out a picture and he said, I came here to grieve my dog
oh,
with
Wow.
a red bow on the neck. And I was like, what? So, and then, in some workshop, I'm sorry, I'll stop talking so much.
No, we love
this
it.
is great. Keep going.
Some workshops will all have a collective role, and we won't know it till we get there. Like there was once a group of 8. It was a small group. I'm like, oh, this is a small group. Let's see how it goes. I love it. So one of the participants who'd never done anything like this before was like the holder of the earth. And another, Amanda Masters, she was like holding the energy of the light. And she got visions of like all of us in this place of light. Another one was holding the ancestral. Another one was a cosmic, like galactic realm holder. We all had a role. We came out of it and started to process what just happened, because we were all transported to this other place. The energy was full and healing and beautiful. And like we were crying from the beauty. And we each had this role in this collective raising of consciousness. And this was the one where all the grids of the mountains on the earth all connected to each other.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like, and that was right after Mount Shasta. That's right after we had led the retreat in Shasta, of course.
Is this part of with? Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Cal. When you do these groups dynamics, do you start with music or no? Or do you do meditation with them, or how does that begin?
My partner and I work together, and he's an amazing breathwork practitioner.
So you do breath work, not music, or do you do both?
No, we do the music. It's like it's everything. So we do we clear with toning through the voice, which is the voice right now is really, really important for us to connect and to clear. We do the singing bowls. I have beautiful bowls. Then we go into a breath work. It's just a very light and like connective breath work. And then I do the music program after that. And we travel as a group we travel is what I say, as a group, all together. Things come through for each participant. We leave 30 minutes for me to give readings at the end and to help people understand what colors come through. Like green is heart. And then we've got the yellow of the warrior energy and like self autonomy and all that, self-discipline. And then a lot of teal and turquoise has been coming through. And that's like a galactic healing that's been coming through since, for a while. And then the iridescent ray. Now, so I'll see different colors. The iridescent ray has been the most fascinating for me, because when it comes through, I see this like shiny white liquid light that like it looks backlit, like it's liquid dial soap, but it's backlit and it has this rainbow sheen. And I remember that's one I've never seen before. So I reached out to my mentor, and I write a lot about her in my book. And I said, what does this mean? And she said, and this is so beautiful. She said, that is actually not spoken about much, but it's the ray of creating advanced civilizations. The masters bring that in to help create advanced civilization. And that's where we are right now. We are on the precipice of this golden age. Like everything that's coming through, we're moving into a space of living through the heart. And the heart is going to lead us into this. And so when I had that validation, I thought, oh my gosh, we are really doing something here. We really are.
Is this all part of making heaven on earth?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that I am, oh, hi, Amanda. I believe that that I am here to help people connect their presence, to bring their heaven to earth, to help them with that, however that looks for them. I think we all have that ability. And I think as a consciousness, we are going to expand our awareness exponentially in the next few years. I mean, it's going to be a whole different world, and it's going to be beautiful. I really believe that. I see that for us.
I believe that too.
Yeah. Even though we have to look at the shadow to move through it, but how do we handle it? Like, how do we How do we shift the consciousness around that?
And I'm just going to mention your book again, which I call Waking Up in Heaven, which you should all, and there's a longer name to it, but I call Waking Up in Heaven. And you should go on Amazon or everywhere else. It's Barnes and Noble and get it, because it's really an amazing book. There it is. And it's own story. And it's really, I've read many near-death experiences. It's a really unique one, as you just heard, with the music and so much. And let me ask you, Ellen, so if you didn't have that near-death experience, would you be doing the work you're doing today?
No way.
No way, right?
I would love to say that I would, but here's the thing. That near-death experience was all part of the plan. Like the horse and I had a contract. I've spoken to it now because the horse had to be put down after that. And I always felt so guilty, guilty about that. Like, but
maybe your horse is your guide now.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yes.
Right?
My horse.
And what do you believe in the word accidents? Do you believe there are such things as accidents?
I think everything is purposeful and everything is meant to help us connect more deeply with our presence. I mean, I don't think I would have, to answer your question, no, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing without the near-death experience, because I don't think I'd be here without it. I mean, I think I came into this embodiment. I've seen my previous lives where I died by head injury. This embodiment was for me to overcome that and to use that experience to help others connect with their higher self.
And raise your frequency, raise your vibration, so you'll be able to receive from those higher realms, right?
Absolutely. What a gift,
What a gift.
Yeah. Now, I know you have children. How do they respond to
Tell
this?
us about that.
Yes.
How many kids do you have, and how old are they?
Oh, I have 3 kids. I have a sophomore in college, a senior that's graduating this week, and I have a 12-year-old. And they are amazing. I'm learning through. I talk about motherhood as being a practice for staying in presence, right? And that how my children have been a healer for me, and how I used the experience of mothering them to help teach people how to connect with their higher self, because they would be going to bed and they'd be afraid. And we'd talk about the ley lines between the heart, the invisible string that connects us even when or we talk about protection, like put a bubble around yourself. These were like developing some skills. Each experience in my life allowed me to help develop what I want to give back to the world, which is, here's how you protect yourself. Okay, when you get in these thoughts, let's call in your spirit guide. I mean, my daughter loved marine animals, like beluga whales was one. And then my daughter was like a white, there's like a white leopard, a snow leopard, right? The snow leopard was another. And then now my son, like he's more aware of the spiritual world than I ever was at any age. Like, I'm blown away by these children. It's amazing.
Wow. And how did your parents handle this new awakening with you?
Oh, good question, Kellee.
I'm always curious.
You're 12 years old when this happened, right? So you're still forming.
They've been so supportive, and it's just, they hold space for it. And I talk about that, they helped me to recover and understand how I could be in these gifts and also exist in the world.
So then you know that you picked that family.
I was just gonna say, obviously, right? You've had to pick them. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And there's a skill set, like coming back from a near-death experience, that integration part is not always easy, and it takes years.
Oh.
And so my parents were able to help me, like, okay, stay in your spiritual self, and here's how you interact with the world and help people understand it. Right? That was
very good. Very good.
Yeah.
And my question Renee has, which is a really interesting one, about did you get experience of octaves of light as music on the other side?
So I have seen that vision since in the last couple of years, like ever since I went through a very difficult divorce at the beginning of COVID. It was a reawakening for me. And what I thought was devastation at the time, because I had so identified, right? I self-identified as a mother and a wife. I needed to disidentify with that part of my ego so I could find myself again. And I kind of forgot the octaves of light. So I saw in a vision that there were these vibrations of source, large vibrations that intersect, and then we are smaller vibrations. And the sound and energy that comes from that was something that I could experience in here. But what I learned was that we as humans, and this is kind of about the octave of light, but we as humans create our own vibrations through what we create in the world. So art, music, even cooking, talking, communicating, these are smaller vibrations that are needed from us because higher vibration source are too big to create those. So we're continually expanding the universe through vibration and sound, if that makes any sense.
Makes total sense. And I love the word express. Continue, please.
And
It's
so
like I understand exactly what you're saying, but it's presented so well as you're portraying it.
I love it because I don't always understand like the theological reasons behind what I see, but it helps me to understand and make sense of it too. And when I do my work, yes, like sound is huge. Sound comes through octaves. I believe there are different octaves of light that sometimes experiencers reach different levels of octaves of light. And I believe that we as humans can access it through these types of practices that we do, you know, spiritual work, coming to get a reading, like connecting with their presence through color. I think color is a big part
Ellen,
of it.
let me interrupt you. And it gets more and more every day. And when I see people now, many times, if I let myself fully go there, I'm aware of the color of their thoughts when they have thoughts, and what the thoughts look like. You know, what the makeup of that thought. Is it round, square? Is it a design to it? I become aware of that now, maybe because I've been in the forest for so long. But it's really interesting. Besides light, there's shape and form. I'm finding to, not everyone, of course. It's easy to see it from other people, but you probably have that as well, I would assume.
I mean, the sacred geometry has been very interesting because I do believe that that is a form of communication from source and that it comes through in these patterns. And when we think about patterns in life and shifting thought patterns, right?
Yes.
We think, oh, well, just so like I have people imagine that they see this field of patterns outside of them that are all connected to each other, right? But are reshaping themselves and repatterning themselves as if we are literally shifting the patterns of our life and life experiencing. So this is, I think, a manifestation tool too. These patterns you're seeing, the patterns that are seen around them that they can manipulate and change or through their connection to source, obviously, right?
And, you know, Pythagorean said that the universe is measured by numbers. What is your feeling on that? Do those numbers have to do with these images? What do you feel that where numbers play into this?
I think there's power and information in numbers, and I think that there are deeper and deeper dimensions that we as humans can never really understand. But if we're seeking information, we can look at numbers and numerology and all these things. And of course, there's wisdom in them. There's so much wisdom we can access with whatever our passion connects with. And some people
totally agree.
Yeah, I totally agree with that one. That's like an old one we forgot. It's very true.
Yeah.
Right. Lisa wants to know about vibrations of sound and color that are related to our auras.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that happened to me in meditation class at Naropa. It was really interesting. I started seeing colors around people and I thought I had unlocked this amazing gift. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I see colors. I see auras. I've always wanted to. And I went to my meditation. I went to my instructor and I said, what do I do with this? You know, kind of feeling special. And she's like, that is a distraction. It is taking you away from your present moment. Not to say that it's not true, because they do exist, but that's just my funny little aura story. But yeah, I think everyone shines with an aura. I think it's very important. It can be colors are very interesting. Like, I think violet's cleansing and connection to source. I think indigo blue is connection to intuition. We've got the white as well. Then the nurturing energy of the oranges, they can be used. These colors can be used with intention to shift things in the different energy centers in and around the body. And I think that our auras can be very interesting to learn about. And I'm fascinated with them. I wish I knew more.
And when you were a little girl, Ellen, what was your desire to do? What did you want to do in the world? Do you remember, like, when you grew up, what did you want to be?
I mean, well, after my near-death experience, I just knew
before your near-death experience. I was curious if you had any thoughts about what you were going to do when you grew up before you had your near-death experience.
I don't really remember before my near-death experience.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I could definitely ask my family. I think my purpose really just formed in that experience itself,
Probably service of some kind, healer or, health work or something. Sure.
All I know is they said I had a good childhood and it was pretty hilarious.
When is your birthday, may I ask?
July 6th.
So
Oh.
Cancerian. Okay.
And I go off of my near-death experience date and my birthday for astrology. I kind of flip back and forth.
What was your near-death experience date?
September 29th.
Archangel Michael's birthday.
Is it really?
Yeah.
He comes through my work a lot.
Yeah, me too. I had a near-death experience. I had a head injury. And so because of that, I started working with Archangel Michael. And I love that you're talking about sacred geometry and the images, because only recently when I do sessions have I been seeing these sacred, I don't even know how to explain them, geometry pieces with people, in front of people, on the side of people, all over the people. Yeah. And it's only been, I'm going to tell you, in the last 2 to 3 months.
Yeah. Okay.
So you too?
It's been in the last month.
Wow.
And that's why
something's happening here. Something's changing.
Something's changing. And then there have been a lot of downloads about water, of course, and the content.
Talk about water, because we got off track on that. Tell a little bit about water.
Gosh. So I was told by Veda Austin is who I follow with her work on water, where she'll freeze a petri dish, and she found that when she was freezing the petri dish over an image, it would trace the letters or trace the art underneath the petri dish, and then it would freeze in that crystal formation. And so she started doing studies of speaking to water. She said, "Water, who are you?" And then the water would write "I am" in the frozen petri dish.
Wow.
So she's getting all of this, right? So I'm fascinated with that, but I got the download, and she asked me to talk about my near-death experience on her show. And I told her about how I experienced the light, and I work with bringing these light rays through. And she told me that just as water spins before it's about to boil, she had learned that water spins upon the moment of death in the human body and seems to be lifting. And the idea is that potentially the soul body may be connecting through the water element of our human, right? So I was like, whoa, okay, this fits with everything, because how else is the water getting through? So now I work with the light coming through, the water element in the brain fluid and the spinal fluid and the blood.
Wow.
The points of light coming on in the body. This was shown to me. So I'm just absolutely fascinated. And I've been speaking to my water in the shower. I say, I love it. Dr. Emoto's work talks about the crystal formation. We know that. It's just fascinating that water, and we found too, and this is what I've been hearing lately, is water is older than the sun. So the consciousness of water, it can transport messages through our body. It can speak to our soul body. There's something about it that is truly conscious. It can even heal itself when it's out in her new book. She has a new book. So I want to give her a plug for that, because this is where you can find the research, where she will put it next to a 5G. And 2 years ago, that water couldn't really be measured well. It didn't seem to be, I don't know, the frequency, whatever she's measuring. But then more recently, she's tested the water by the 5G, and it's recovering. It's healing itself in a couple of hours.
Wow.
Yeah. And just, we're like a drop of water in the ocean changes the frequency of all of it. And we breathe water. We are water, everything, right?
Water.
Yeah.
Which would explain why the full moon really gets us, everything changing.
Absolutely.
Ellen, I hate to say this to you, but we're out of time. But would you mind being a guest, come back with us sometime and
Please.
talk again? Because there's so much we'd love to hear it from you, and share.
Everybody get her book. I mean,
Yes,
it is
please.
amazing. And your story.
Waking up in heaven.
And you're living your life purpose.
I am. And this is kind of a close interpretation of what I saw on the other side too. So that's kind of cool. My little cover shows a little bit about that.
And you do workshops as well, right, Ellen? You do workshops?
I do workshops once or twice a month. We travel. We do this work for anyone who wants to have us come. And then James, if you'd love
come over to my house, I can do it at my place. We'll do a retreat.
I would totally. Yeah, we bring
Consider yourself in, Kellee. You want to come?
Okay, I'll be there. I will.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ellen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ellen, for
Thank you.
today.
Bless you, sweetheart. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.